Welcome everybody to the inaugural episode of Health Matters. We are really excited about what we're going to bring to the audience, not only this evening, but in future episodes. We hope to provide some really helpful information for you to make your own health decisions. And again, we're really excited about this. We want this to be interactive with our Facebook page and with the show so that you get the maximum benefit out of it. This evening, I'm so excited to welcome my friend and expert, Phil Campbell. He and I met here in West Tennessee, although he's currently residing in California. And by all accounts, he's a fitness expert and here to provide you with some really valuable information. And a little background on this. I know everybody's probably hopefully still holding true to their New Year's resolutions, but if you're not alone. I think probably 75 to 80% probably have already blown those, but don't get discouraged. We're here to offer you some information that may help get you back on track, myself included. I want to just mention really quickly that obesity is out of control basically in this country. And it's linked to so many health issues, not just about how your appearance is, and it's not just diabetes, it's heart disease, it's reflux, it's strokes, it's renal failure, it's cancers. And what recently came to light during this last 2 years of the pandemic is that it also was linked to a very poor outcome, either ventilation or death, because of COVID-19. And that was one of the biggest factors of a poor outcome. We didn't hear a lot about that in mainstream media. In fact, it kind of got ignored. So we want to give you tools to make lifestyle changes that may help benefit your health. Instead, what we did, it seemed like, was we handed out donuts for vaccines and hamburgers and Uber rides. So we want to help you give you the tools to make those positive changes, and it will affect your overall health. Again, Phil Campbell's here with me tonight. He is going to give you some really good information so that you're maximizing the benefits of your exercise program, and I'm sure he has lots of tools to offer us. He is an author. He has produced 3 different books. The first one was published in 2000. This is my go-to book. This is Ready, Set, Go, and it will describe his fitness program. It has pictures, it has charts and graphs to help you. The second was published in 2016, and again, it's on his exercise, which is called Sprint 8. This has a lot of good science behind it, and he's going to kind of work through that with you. This is not hocus pocus. This has been proven time and time again. And then the third one is How to Coach Speed Technique, and this was published in 2020. He was active in the Bethel University program right here in McKinsey, and that's how we met. When he and I first met, I've always struggled with my weight, and I was actually seeing patients at a physical therapy clinic, and he said, "Have you ever tried Sprint 8?" And I said, "No," and he put me on a elliptical, I believe it was, and I about died. It was an intense workout, but I added that to my armamentarium, and that probably was the most transformative program I've ever been involved in. You see results quickly, and it's not just in the size of your clothes. It is in your overall well-being, including your mental health and your physical health. And at 42 years old, I was probably at the best shape of my life. So I'm selfishly hoping that bringing Phil on here will also motivate myself to get back on this program, because I know of the benefits. And, people don't know where to start. So Phil's going to help us with that. He's going to present us with the science behind it, the research behind it, and help you get started on your transformation. Hello, Phil. I'd like to welcome you to our show. Phil, you need to just take off your
Great pleasure to be here. It took me a minute to find the unmute button.
Yes, so, we're having technology.
It's so great to see you and follow you on Facebook and hear all the exciting things you're doing. And what you're doing now, it's just wonderful, because you're really reaching a lot of people and a lot of your patients to do some things that may avoid them, having to go to an orthopedic surgeon in the future. or at least delay that for several years. So if we live long enough, we're all going to be to see you for a couple of different things, and you need new help. And I have several friends that have had that done, and they swear it's the greatest thing ever. It's really restored their ability to move, to exercise again. And so thank you for being an orthopedic surgeon and doing so many great things for people. And thanks for allowing me to come and talk a little bit about Sprint 8 today.
Well, we're very happy to have you. I guess, so Sprint 8 is the big catchword, and there's probably most of our audience isn't really familiar with the Sprint 8. So let's just start maybe by explaining the technical part of Sprint 8, and then we can go into the benefits and the science behind that.
Well, the benefits are really enormous, and the new research is opening up doors about why this type of training is so effective. And, a lot of times I'll hear, people say, well, these are long distance runners. They don't have any body fat, but they don't have muscle. And then you look at sprinters and you see these guys don't have body fat. These females don't have body fat, except they have a lot of muscle. And most people seem to prefer that look of looking more fit. But the best thing about it is it really is a great thing to keep your muscle all of your life, because what we know now, the research is the moment you start losing muscle, people go downhill. For example, my stepdad actually did Sprint 8 on a recumbent cycle up to age 97. And he did great. He was gait. He walked like somebody who was probably 50 years old. He was doing great, but then vertigo got to him, and they couldn't treat it the right way, so he basically had to stop. The moment he stopped working all three muscle fiber types and doing Sprint 8 to work both processes of the heart muscle, the aerobic process as well as the anaerobic process, which kept him young and vibrant. The moment that happened, he really started going downhill at that point. Now, he made it to age 100, which was his goal, and we celebrate that. Max in heaven today, we know. But he did great all the way to 97, but the moment he started losing muscle, he went downhill. And you see that clearly in research, and I know you do, but trainers see that. When people lose muscle, they start going downhill. So it's so important, particularly for females that don't like to lift weights sometimes, to add that strength training component to it. And Sprint 8 does a lot of that inside the component, and most people consider it like cardio, but it's also strength training as well.
Right. And, on the orthopedic note of what I deal with is that we see a huge impact, particularly in females, again, of sustaining hip fractures. When they start losing that muscle mass, they also lose their balance. And muscle fibers actually pull on the bone, which stimulates bone growth. And so that's a key factor in the prevention of osteoporosis. So again, like you're saying with your father, that was a big deal. The other issue is that every extra pound of body weight you have on your body is seen as 5 to 8 pounds of pressure on a joint. And if you have a damaged joint, you're just adding injury to insult already. So getting that weight off, being lean, healthy, keeping flexibility in your joints, and motion is lotion, as I always say, is really important, because the mortality rate after hip fracture is very high within a year. So we want to try to prevent those things, and we want to try to prevent osteoporosis in the beginning. So I think the point that brings up is that Sprint 8 isn't just for young elite athletes. Sprint 8 can be for everybody.
That's a good point. There's actually a study. A lot of times people say, well, that's sprinting, that's a guy's thing. And there's actually a couple studies that show it's slightly more effective for females than for males. And so what we're talking about is like a sprinter's workout, except how you can do it on a piece of cardio equipment at home. If you were sprint running, it would be 60 meters or 70 yards on a football field after a big, long warm-up, and then walk back for a minute and a half times 8 reps. That's basic Sprint 8 if you were running outside. If you were sprint swimming, it would basically be 25 meters as fast as you can, hang on the side for a full minute and a half to recover, sprint back for 8 reps. Starting with 2 reps, slowly build up to 8. But the only change of that is if you are a trained swimmer with great technique, more probably than not, you have to go 25 meters, make the flip, and come back and make it 50 meters to equal the same intensity of most of us swimmers swimming. When you do it on a piece of cardio, even if it's a treadmill, it's 30 seconds, but it's going 30 seconds all out as fast as you can to force the recruitment of all three muscle fiber types, which is a fundamental component of the success of Sprint 8 because it builds all three muscle fiber types rather than just slow twitch fiber. And it works both processes of the heart muscle because you're recruiting so much more muscle. So on a piece of cardio equipment, it would look like a 3-minute warm-up, nice and easy. Then if you have matrix equipment that has the program built in, it's been in their equipment now for 16 years. And they keep refining pieces of it. And this year, or really 2 years ago, they got to the point that, they asked me, what can we do to change this? And I said, 2 years ago, you can't do anything.
Right.
You've perfected this on a piece of equipment. And it's hard to actually think, how do you get the intensity of actually a sprinter sprinting outside on a recumbent cardio unit? But they've done it.
Right.
And so what it would look like is a 3-minute warm-up, and then the Sprint 8 program actually changes the resistance level, so you're going hard and fast at the same time for 30 seconds. So you're trying to go as fast as you can, and they have measurements in the new control panel called Sweat Score, which is joules, Joules. It's a true measure of power, just like watts. It's just an easier number to relate to. For most females, it's a 1 to 100 system, easy to relate to, and it gives you your sweat score on each cardio sprint, and at the end it gives you a cumulative total. And what's really interesting is most people, when they start Sprint 8, they will set a personal record every workout 3 times a week for about 3 to 6 months. And then after that, you see a personal record about once a week, which means you're continually getting stronger and more fit over time. Right. It doesn't let you down. The program doesn't let you down. It's always hard, but it always works. And then there are 8 segments of 30 seconds, hard as you can, a true full minute and a half for active recovery. And it's a huge mistake to rush that active recovery. Some people try, well, let me only try 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off. Well, what that means is your fast switch fiber didn't get recovered, so you can't really go all out on the next sprint. It's only when you can get 90-second recovery that allows you to truly make the next rep a cardio sprint repetition. And that's what gets the great value out of it. And you release a huge amount of growth hormone. That's really the main reason that Sprint 8 was created. How can we take the research that we knew about 20, 30 years ago now and apply that so you get the maximum amount of release of growth hormone? People inject growth hormone today. It's kind of a hidden secret in Hollywood that you see a regular looking actor, looks like a normal guy, and also 2 months later, he's jacked up, all this muscle, no body fat. Almost everybody knows that they're injecting growth hormone, some other things too, but growth hormone is the key component because in the average case, right down the road from Matrix headquarters is University of Wisconsin, where Dr. Rubman lined up some guys, injected them with growth hormone, and looked at the results over 8 weeks. Average case, they dropped 14.4% body fat. They put on 8% lean muscle mass, and several other great things happened to their body. And some people would argue that that's the youth hormone. T.C. Welber at LSU Medical Center argues that it should be called your fitness hormone, because when you get exercise to focus on how does this exercise work as far as not burning calories, but releasing growth hormone, we're really listening to the body tell us how we should exercise. So it's not body by feel or body by anybody else. It's the body itself is telling us, when you exercise like this, 20 minutes, 3 times a week. Yes, it's hard, and yeah, you sweat, but you feel a lot better, and it really does work. Then you get the maximum amount of benefit from the time you spent exercising.
Right. So I kind of want to back up a little bit. First, I think the term Sprint 8 may be intimidating to some of our viewers. You don't have to be a sprinter to do this. Listen, I'm slow and steady. I've run marathons. I'm kind of that, I've never been high speed. But like you said, one thing you will see is that you rapidly progress to getting better every time you do this. And you can do this without machines. So you mentioned swimming, but even people who power walk, the key to this is the variability of intensity and then the level of intensity that you have during those intervals. So like you were saying, this is a 20-minute workout. But during that 20 minutes, you're getting so much more benefit than you would from walking on a treadmill for an hour. And so the key to doing this is knowing you got your 90-second rest periods and then 8 30-second sprint intervals. And that's just going as hard as fast as you can. When you have it built into the machine, you will also increase the intensity every time you go through. But you can do this, and I've done this with gym equipment at my local gym, or you can do it in your backyard, or you can do it during your walk. But the key is to really push yourself during that 30 seconds. And then I believe, was reading in your book, is that you go into a major fat burning period for about 2 hours after you complete that sprint 8 interval. And so during that time, one of the key things is what you eat and don't eat. So you don't want to put any sugars in your body that's going to shut down your metabolism. Is that correct?
That's correct. They showed the University of Virginia Medical Center in a body of research, not just a couple studies, but a body of research over several years, that when you release a significant amount of growth hormone, which is the goal of Sprint 8, that it stays elevated for 2 full hours going after body fat, almost like you're doing hard cardio for 2 hours. And that's the synergistic approach you get, because you're really stepping out of a calorie count world. You're stepping into a growth hormone releasing world worth of benefits if you just maximize the growth hormone for 2 hours afterwards. Now, what they show in the research is that any spike of insulin, a rise of insulin after doing Sprint 8, is okay, but a spike of insulin, for instance, if someone were to get the high glycemic Snicker bar type carbs and eat on an empty stomach right after doing Sprint 8, then that spikes insulin, and that releases another hormone called somatostatin that shuts down growth hormone. So basically, your pituitary right here releases growth hormone, this huge amount. It's reprocessed in the liver called IGF-1 that you see in the research sometimes. But what starts it is just up above that, the hypothalamus releases what researchers would name growth hormone releasing hormone, and it's modulated by somatostatin. So what you're looking for to optimize the great benefits of growth hormone is to release that growth hormone releasing hormone, but yet stay away from the somatostatin. So if you do Sprint 8, you've got 2 hours worth of synergy window where that hormone is working in your body, right, irrespective of body temperature, doing great things for you, unless you release somatostatin from a spike of insulin.
So don't eat a donut.
People ask me all the time, what can I eat after I work out? And the answer is, I can't tell you exactly, but we definitely know you got to watch sugar, particularly sugar on an empty stomach. And if you have protein in there with it, maybe a little sugar doesn't have that glycemic impact, but rise of that, insulin's okay, but a spike is what shuts that 2 hour synergy window down.
Do you recommend anything pre-workout to maximize the benefits of the human growth hormone release or the metabolic increase to help, increase the performance?
There's two things that occurred over the years as the research has matured, and that is Dr. Wellman that I talked to about a minute ago. He recommends taking 2 grams of L-glutamine. Now, bodybuilders will tell you that you can't get anything out of 2 grams, but the real research shows 2 grams, which my son and I bought a little keg of glutamine several years ago for $23, and it lasted 9 months. It goes a long way and I don't sell supplements and I don't recommend brands, but the research is clear that 2 grams of L-glutamine before taking a Sprint out will help facilitate the release of growth hormone. And then over the recent years, as research has matured on mitochondria, that we can get into in a minute, but that's where ATP, energy in the body, is produced in the amount of mitochondria. Dudley's research back in 1982 even showed that training at over 95% intensity, near 100% intensity, will double and even triple the amount of mitochondria in the muscle cells in 8 weeks' time. And so we also learned that dark chocolate not milk chocolate, but it has to be dark chocolate that's 85% or greater, has approximately 30 grams of epicatechin in it, and that's the workhorse that's fuel for mitochondria growth. So the two things that most people want is, I want muscle, I want to lose body fat, I want to have more energy. Energy comes from the number and the efficiency of the mitochondria, the muscle cell, which this program will definitely increase that number significantly. Like most people, if we did a biopsy on them, would have around 1,000 mitochondria per muscle cell. 8 weeks later, more probably than not, you would have 2,000, according to some researchers, up to 4,000 energy-producing mitochondria. So that's why Kabbalah's research shows you double endurance capacity in 2 weeks' time. 3 workouts in 2 weeks' time on a program at 30-second sprints. Actually, the sprint 7, a little bit less intense than the sprint 8, but it doubles endurance capacity. You physically feel that energy. It's not placebo. You really do feel the extra energy. So taking a little chunk of dark chocolate before is helpful to provide growth for mitochondria.
2 questions, I guess. Is there anybody that Sprint 8 is not good for, and what do people need to do before they start this workout program?
That's a great question. We've seen, like I've had the experience of teaching a Sprint 8 class at Club Sports San Jose, where the older population, we've had most of the class members are probably 50-year-old females who absolutely love the program. And then we've had males of all types of different ages. We had 2 75-year-olds in the class that I got to observe and work with for about 5 years. So we had my zone, so I get to see heart rates all the way through. And one of the 75-year-old guys is a retired general surgeon who almost died of a heart attack. And he can't do long slow because he almost died in a gym doing long slow with someone else at a different gym, but he can handle this. He's not supposed to get his heart rate over 120. We checked it. We'd spot check it like every once a week. And all right, you count, here's the time. And we'd go 15 seconds and look at it very quickly. And he always stayed under 120, but he kept getting stronger and stronger and more fit. And he had
his heart's getting stronger.
Initially, a year later, he's walking, his gait is so much improved. And he would tell you, man, this real program made a huge difference for me. So we see it. And two, both of those guys had people saying things like, "Are you taking steroids? You're putting on muscle." And they said, "Phil, I am taking steroids, but it's just natural."
Right.
And that's a real good point about exercise induced growth hormone. You're getting the same benefit as going to an anti-aging doctor getting injections, except you're doing it naturally.
Right. And that's one of the big points of this show that I want to bring out is giving people the tools that they need to control their health, to control, you can't control everything, but you can definitely do things that allow you benefit naturally, and not everything is found in a pill. Or an injection in this case. So, I think that's one of the reasons I wanted to bring you on here first. Again, the New Year's resolutions going on. And secondly, I don't want people wasting their time doing something that's not necessarily going to give them much benefit. Then they get discouraged and they no longer go on the treadmill for an hour. This is a short, quick 20 minutes. It is exhausting. But I think that once you get into it, you'll really start seeing the benefits quickly, and it'll encourage you to keep carrying on with that. So that's why I wanted to bring this. And I know you have a graphic that kind of shows the intervals so that people can kind of see how to do it. Again, just saying it verbally, it's kind of, rest periods with high intensity 30-second periods for 8 of those, right? I do encourage people to check with their physician before they start any type of exercise program. But there's ways that I think the cool thing about this exercise is that you can make accommodations for different disabilities even. So if you have knee problems or back problems, there might be a different sprint type interval that would be better for you, whether it's swimming or biking, elliptical, outdoor exercise. So it just kind of depends on each person, but it is flexible, and it's not, you don't have to buy the Matrix machines. They are awesome, but there are ways to do it.
You can do it on any type of cardio machine by pushing buttons. It's nice on the Matrix where you just hit one button, put your level in, and when it's time to be harder and faster, it gives you a reverse countdown, 30, 29, 28, and that really helps on the motivation piece. But it's until we recommend everybody tries it, starts with 2 reps the right way and slowly builds up. Not do 3 the next time and then 4 after that. That can be too fast. Just listen to your body, and most of the time you'll know I'm ready for another one.
Right,
and
right. Based on your baseline fitness, you may take you longer or slower to get to the full 8. But listen to your body, I think, is the most important part of this. So this isn't just something you made up and said, oh, look at all these people doing great. You have a lot of research into this program and all the benefits that it provides. And this is, again, it's not something new. You published this first book 22 years ago. So if you want to share some of that information with us, I'm sure people would like to see that, because people want facts. There's a lot of gimmicks out there. This is not a gimmick.
Well, we've actually done 2 hospital-based studies with physician nurse volunteers at King Stars Medical Center. And what we thought we would see is that it would equal injecting growth hormone. But that's why the program was created. But rather than reducing body fat by 14.4%, it was 27% in the first study.
That's amazing.
And we said, before we brag about that, let's finish the second study. The second study came back 27%. And pretty much that's what we see when people join the Sprint 8 class. And we may have 20, 30 people in the class. They all do in-bodies before they start. We pretty much see that on most people, because most people want to lose between 5 and 10 pounds. Now, if somebody's like really lean and mean, they're running marathons, and they just want to, get faster, build the anaerobic processor of the heart muscle, or get more mitochondria for energy for life, and they join the class. Typically, they'll still drop 13% body fat and put on 2 pounds of muscle in 8 weeks. And definitely they increase their endurance capacity during that. So you would think that long, slow running would do that, but they spend hours practicing, if you think about it, only recruiting slow twitch fiber. They're trying not to recruit fast twitch fiber so they can go longer, which I think is a huge mistake in what we know about fitness training. And so you can be 90 years old, 95, 75, any age can do Sprint 8, because you have 3 muscle fiber types in your body for a reason all your life. It's not that those cells go away. They just get small and wimpy because we don't use them.
Right. So do you want to talk about those different muscle fiber types and how each one benefits us? And the point of Sprint 8 is to recruit those fast and super fast twitch muscle fibers. And the other point is that when you're building muscle mass like this, you are increasing your metabolism. Increasing your metabolism helps you burn more calories. So it's a cycle of health benefits that start from the minute you start doing this. So I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about those different muscle fibers and exactly how they benefit you. That would probably be helpful to our listeners as well.
If I can, there's a couple slides here that kind of help me explain that. And okay. I can do the best I can to explain it, but when I show the slides, it seems like they really do help me explain it. I've got to share my screen here. Here's a couple slides that kind of explain what it's all about. If you take a look at this one, it definitely shows the time savings. So if you look down at the bottom, Sprint 8, it's high intensity, 20 minutes. But when you look at the 30-second cardio sprints, you're talking about 4 minutes of hard out of 20, and that's it. The other 16 minutes are basically the intensity of a casual pace walk. And so most everybody I know says, I can do anything for 30 seconds. So we like for people that are signed off by their physician that they're healthy and ready for anaerobic exercise to start with 2 reps and slowly build to all eight. Like in the Sprint 8 class, for example, a lot of people that come in to the class, they're given an option to do 2 reps and then either sit down or continue to do the other 6 reps, except just go nice and easy. And most people want to do the whole class, so they feel a part of it, and that's fine. It works out great. And Club Sports ended up ordering a lot of extra units with Sprint 8 just to accommodate the class. And so you see a good comparison. This is continuous. This gray line here is continuous.
That's walking on the treadmill for an hour.
Basically, modern intensity, you have to go a long time. But we had 2 nutritionists look at the Keenstar's research and give us in calorie terms the equivalent in exercise. And what they both told us was you can do Sprint 8 that's 20 minutes, or you can do long, slow cardio at 75% intensity for 3 hours to equal the same results that you get in 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And that's the benefit. That's a synergistic benefit you get when exercise targets growth hormone.
Right.
This slide basically just shows the 3-minute warm-up, 30-second sprint, minute and a half active recovery. And again, it's a huge mistake to rush the active recovery. What that means is it makes it easier. That means your first rep or 2 may be a quality rep, but after that, you just can't go hard because your fat switch fiber is not recovered. So a lot of what we've talked about has to do with fast fiber. And the way I used to describe this was, you've got activity, traditional cardio, high intensity interval training, which has become really watered down over the years. And then you have sprint intensity training, which was named by the military about 7 to 8 years ago, because they kept saying, this is what you're saying is high intensity is not really high intensity. So this is the real difference. In real life, it's a significant amount of difference between today's interpretation of high-intensity training and the Sprint 8. Sprint 8 is the hardest workout you'll ever do, but everybody can do it at all ages because you're only going hard for 30 seconds, real easy for a minute and a half, repeat another rep. That's the full Sprint 8 when you first start. It's 2 of the 8. 8 reps is the mature program, the totally mature program. That's the marathon. It's to run all 8, to do all 8 reps. And if you ever think you need to do more than 8, you didn't do it right. In 30 years, I've never had anybody get on rep number 6 and say, I think I'll do another one. Yeah. Guys that do 100-mile events, for example, super marathoners, they say, well, I'm going to knock out all 8. Won't be a big deal for me. Normally, by the 5th rep, they're sprinting to the restroom, because they don't condition the anaerobic process of their heart muscle. And this is really tough for them because they never recruit their fast switch fiber. They spend hours practicing not recruiting fast fiber. And this slide here gets looking a little bit on the science side, but it's really a simple system. If you were to take your muscle and cut it right here and look at the ends of it, it's a muscle strands. What you see is some dark fibers, which would be slow twitch fibers. This propels human movement. So when the body tries to move, it thinks it's doing you a favor not to recruit both types of fat switch fiber and conserve that fiber in case you need it for an emergency situation. But during Sprint 8, once you're going hard and fast and your slow fiber is recruited, your brain recognizes it very quickly. That's not adequate to accomplish the task. So then it recruits the 2A fiber that moves approximately 5 times faster and slow. If you looked at the color, it would be pink. It doesn't get a lot of blood like the slow. It doesn't need that much. But what happens is, so it's basically pink, and these cells are much larger than a slow twitch fiber. And if you were to count these up, representative of what's really going on in the body, is you would see about 10 slow twitch fiber. You'd see about 20 fast switch 2A fiber, but then look at the 2X fiber. There'd be about 30 of those. There's significantly more fast twitch 2X fiber. Light colored fiber, it doesn't need oxygen, if you will, doesn't need blood because it's not meant that way. It's meant to totally be exhausted and work hard for 30 seconds or less. So what happens here is a separate nerve is connected to all your slow twitch fiber. It's almost like a switch on the wall, one electrical switch going, just a slow twitch fiber. Then you have a larger switch that engages the 2X fiber, the 2A fiber rather when it's needed, and then you have a third switch. So it's a different nerve. Henning's research back in the 1980s shows this conclusively, that one nerve's going to slow twitch, One nerve's going to 2A, one's going to 2X. So it's not that your brain's telling this group to work and this group to work. And there's a specific nerve attached to that. So when the body moves, it's trying to do everything possible in slow twitch fiber. Then the 2A kicks in. We're trying to also force the recruitment of the fast twitch 2X. So now you're oxygenating all this muscle fiber. Your heart muscle has to work extremely hard, and your lungs have to work extremely hard to oxygenate this, and it can't really do it, but that's what builds the anaerobic process of the heart muscle. It keeps the heart muscle strong. And what a lot of people don't know about the heart muscle is, as we age, it gets smaller and smaller and smaller. You're trying to keep your heart muscle big and strong. Now, if it's getting enlarged, you're sitting in a nursing home, and that's your form of exercise, that's not what you're looking for, but you want to keep the heart muscle big and strong, and the plumbing system to it cleaned out. And when you're pumping a lot of blood through it, this huge amount of stroke volume, some researchers believe it's the amount of stroke volume your heart is pumping through there that causes the growth hormone reaction. Perfect. This is another slide. It shows this.
So when you do a Sprint 8 workout, are you actually creating more super fast and fast twitch fibers, or you're just recruiting them to be active?
Well, what we know is there's a couple of theories on that. The prevailing one that's been around a long time is you don't create more fast twitch fiber. But what you do is you take the fiber that you have, it basically is growing or it's getting smaller when we don't use it. So if you look at the cells of aging people, what you see a lot of times is some of the cells look just like their younger counterparts, but then some of them are just kind of shriveled up. Kind of like our skin is when we get a little bit older. But it's the fast twitch fiber that we don't use, so it gets smaller. So one major theory is that those cells are still there. They're just small and wimpy because we don't use them. And when you start working them, they start getting bigger and stronger, and great things happen because you significantly get stronger. And so there's just a certain amount of nerves going to the slow twitch fiber. Then there's a lot more nerves going to the 2A, and there's a significant amount of nerves connecting all of the 2X. Right. So when you do Sprint 8, your brain says, let me hit this, this, and this to accomplish the task. But then again, we know that it's trying not to do that. Your brain's trying to do things in the slow twitch fiber to conserve that fiber. Here's another study just kind of verifies that, but this is looking at athletes because a lot of people think that, well, endurance runners recruit the most slow twitch fiber, sprinters have the most fast twitch fiber, recruit the most when they train. But the research shows that this is comparing different forms of activity on college-age students in this study in Indiana, and they basically compared it with a champion sprinter. So if you look right here, the dark fiber slow. So who recruits the most slow fiber? I would have thought the distance runners or the recreational runners would recruit the most slow fiber. Who recruits the most? The sprinter does, because he's forcing the other fiber. So a lot of people do HIIT today, but then who recruits the most 2A fiber? The sprinter does in their workout. Who recruits the 2X? Nobody does. None of these forms of exercise recruit the 2X fiber. It has to be a sprinter's type workout, which we can now do on a piece of a recumbent cycle. That means it's nothing in the slow. You can sit on a recumbent cycle, pedal, nice and easy, watch a couple of movies and never break a sweat. But if you do Sprint 8 on a recumbent cycle, most people will never get 5 the first time, no matter how fit they are, because it is a tough workout.
Right.
So that's basically what the goal of Sprint 8. We're trying to train just like a sprinter would train, except in a safe way on a piece of equipment and get it done in 20 minutes 3 times a week. But the enemy of all this, and this is an important concept, once people understand this, is the researchers have named this concept, and I've talked about it for years. The body tries to do things with slow twitch fiber in the endurance energy system so he can do it. Its brain is thinking it's doing you a favor not to recruit the fast twitch fiber. But the researchers have named the exercise paradox is what your brain really does. So what that basically means is if you come up to a decision, here's the stairs, here's the elevator. You may take the stairs for the exercise, but your brain always first says, there's the elevator. The body always opts to do things the easiest way, not the most intense way, because your brain's trying to conserve that fast fiber.
Right.
So Sprint 8 is an attempt to force your brain to recruit all three muscle fiber types that it doesn't want to do. But when people understand that this is the enemy and this is what's going on, they can really go with much more intensity.
Right. Right. I think I'm going to encourage our listeners and watchers to try this. And like you said, just start with 2 weeks, right? 3 times a week. So we're talking about 2 hours of workout. And see the difference that you have. And we do have a Facebook page, and I would love to see people's comments and things that they've noticed. If they don't have to put personal information in there, but like I said, when I did this 20 years, well, it's been a while now since I did this. My body transformed the fastest it ever has, and at that point, I feel like I was in the best shape of my life doing this. So it's not hard, and I'm happy to answer any questions that people may have come up as they start this progress, and it is life-changing. And I'm sure you've seen that, and you've trained all different levels of athletes, from the super elite to the 70-year-old. So you know that it works. I know that it works, and I just would, I think it'd be great if we could get some people in our community to get on board, and maybe we can even form a new community of people to support each other with this.
So the big thing about cardio sprints is they don't have to be super, super fast or super slow. You don't want to make it a power 8. It doesn't need to be so hard that you can't go with decent velocity, but you've got to get the velocity picked up so your brain will recruit all 3 muscle fiber types. So now the big benefit from the heart standpoint is you're working the anaerobic process that most people don't do. So every year we hear about somebody running a marathon dying in a marathon. The reason why, they're great condition for long, slow distance using their slow twitch fiber. But the moment they get anaerobic, they're not conditioned for that because they don't train that system. So this does a lot of great things for people, but we just start with 2 and just know you'll keep getting stronger and stronger. My friend Jerry Bauer writes for several magazines, a very analytical guy, the financial guy, but he used Sprint 8 to lose a lot of weight, and he's been doing it 5-6 years now, and he texted me one day and he said, "Just want you to know, Phil, my wife and I do the Sprint 8 together, and we hate you." We don't just hate you, doing Sprint 8. We hate you the whole day. And I go, "Well, I understand it. I understand it." If somebody says they love Sprint 8, I hope they mean they love the results. But
Yes.
If somebody says they love it, they're probably not doing it correctly, because it's a tough problem. It's tough for me. I've been doing it 30 years, and I dread doing Sprint 8, but let me tell you, life is so good when it's over with.
Yeah.
In fact, at King George Middleton, we tested dopamine on 2 people just to see what it would do.
Yeah.
It doubled in one and almost tripled in another one.
Right.
I mean, you get the runner's high every time you do Sprint 8.
That's right.
And I can tell you, if I have any sort of problem, I can get on that machine, do Sprint 8, and I don't even remember what the problem is when it's over with, but it's minor. And so it does great things for emotional health, particularly, during the lock-in times and that sort of thing.
Yeah. I really appreciate you coming on my first show. I think the information you have to share is super valuable, and I think that our viewers will really, if they can embrace this, they're going to see the benefits. Is there any other tidbits or pearls you want to share with our viewers before they go on this journey?
One thing we do recommend is adding a stretching program to it. But we also, in a perfect world, you do Sprint 8 first to release growth hormone, then do some sort of strength training while growth hormone is circulating, and then finish out with a flexibility component. In the book, talks about the 10-minute stretching routine with 30-second stretch hold. We've tested that on about 1,000 athletes over the years, and the average improvement on sit and reach self-test, and we show you actually how to do that in the book. It's 4 inches of measurable flexibility in 4 weeks. But the flexibility component is extremely important because as you do strength training, that makes your muscles strong, but it also makes them tight unless you're adding the strength program with it.
Right. And so a lot of this information is in your book. Where can people get this book? Is this the one you'd recommend for people to start with?
That's the one that has most of the strength training in it. The Sprint 8 Cardio Protocol, the white book, is probably the one with the most recent information that has the updated studies. It also shows it lists the different exercises. It doesn't show them like the Ready, Set, Go book did, but it also shows the stretching exercises in this 10-minute routine.
And these are available on Amazon or any place you buy books?
Yep. My website's sprint8book.com. Amazon sells it as well.
All right. Well, again, I thank you so much. I think that, I think this is going to be some good information to people, and it's probably going to save them some time, and also get the benefits that they want to see from their exercise program. I mean, nobody wants to go through any type of exercise and not see results. And I think one thing you can kind of guarantee with this is that you're going to see results. If you're doing it right, you are going to see results very quickly.
Well, thank you so much. It's great seeing you.
Great seeing you too. I can't wait till you come back to Tennessee.
Out to your patients and the folks there in West Tennessee.
Yeah, thank you. And we'll greet you with open arms when you come back to Tennessee.
Sounds great.
All right, thank you, Phil. All right, everybody, I want to thank you for joining us on our first episode of Health Matters. We have a lot of exciting things coming your way. And again, I'm going to kind of go outside the box from mainstream medicine and maybe give you some tools to help manage your own health concerns. Our next show will be in 2 weeks on the 24th, and we will be featuring Dr. Ken Berry, who many of you probably know from this area. He is going to be talking about keto. So we're adding the diet program to the exercise program, which we've shown you tonight, and so that we can hopefully get you the whole package. Again, it's never too late to start on your health journey, and hopefully we're helping get you there through some of these wonderful experts that we bring onto the show. Again, really excited about what we have to offer you. Please tune in next time. Join our Facebook page and share your results, share your questions, share your concerns, and we'll try to get you answers. But I think if we can build a community that supports each other, everybody does better and is more successful. Again, thank you, everybody, and we'll see you next time.
Okay, and what does your doctor say about you doing the program?
Well, first I want to thank Matrix for providing the program and Angie for promoting it. My doctor, first the cardiologist, when I went in, I just wanted to be sure I wasn't doing anything that I shouldn't against my pacemaker, which I've had for 11 years, and also just not wearing my heart out. I checked with him, and when I mentioned Sprint 8, he started laughing. And I thought, oh me. But he said to his assistant, who he had walking around with him everywhere, he said, "Can you believe this woman, 89 years old, is doing Sprint 8? And then he said, you go right ahead. Do not get above 120 in your pulse, though, your heart rate. And unfortunately, I'm not very disciplined, and I get just a little bit above, but thank goodness you have the heart rate there, and I am being better about it. But the thing about Sprint 8, and I'm carrying on, but I had fibromyalgia often, and I had to have medication for it. And since I've been doing Sprint 8, I've not had any medication. I've not had any fibromyalgia. I also had a pinched nerve in my shoulder that ran up to my neck, that when that hit, it was paralyzing pain. I have not had any of that problem. So in essence, Sprint has saved my life. It's changed it for sure and made it a lot more comfortable. And the least to say, I was one of those that weighed in every day and still do. I weigh in every day. But it used to be I weighed in to see what I could eat that day and how much. Now I weigh in just for the comfort of knowing that I'm okay. I'm in control. And I love my Sprint 8. Tell people to call me. I'd be glad to tell them all about it. Thank you so much, Matrix.